42 pounds of tomatoes off 4 plants. That was last August's number in Karen's harvest log, and 2 summers before that, the same 4 spots in the same raised bed gave me barely 19 pounds. Now here's the part that surprises people. I didn't add one new fertilizer between those 2 summers. I didn't buy special plants, and I didn't change how much I watered. The biggest change was what I stopped pouring into that bed. There are 5 liquids that home gardeners pour into their soil every week. Most of us, because somebody we trusted told us they help. A couple of them get recommended right in the garden aisle. One of them is sitting in your kitchen right now, and it is quietly working against every vegetable you grow. Today, I'm walking you through all 5, one at a time, with what each one actually does once it soaks down to the roots and what to use instead. And stay with me to the end, because there is one liquid from my kitchen that I do pour on my tomatoes and squash every single summer. It's the white jug, not the brown one. And the reason it works comes down to one specific thing sunlight does to it once it's sitting on the leaf, and almost nobody ever explains that part. I'm Steve Calloway. I've been growing food in the same Midwest backyard for more than 20 years, running side-by-side test beds and writing down what actually happened in every one of them. My first garden was a jungle of green that gave me about a dozen tomatoes all summer, so I know exactly what doing it wrong looks like. These days, my wife Karen keeps the harvest log, and our biggest problem is giving food away fast enough. Before we get to number 1, you need to know what's actually down there under your plants. A single teaspoon of healthy garden soil holds more living organisms than there are people on this planet. Bacteria, fungi, earthworms, and 1,000 smaller workers, all of them breaking food down into the form roots, can drink. That underground crew is the real factory in a vegetable garden. The plants are just the loading dock, and pouring is different from sprinkling. A granular fertilizer sits on the surface and releases slowly, but a liquid soaks straight down through the root zone in minutes and touches everything at once. The good stuff reaches everything. The bad stuff reaches everything too. That's why one bad jug can undo a whole season of work, and why some beds take 2 or 3 years to fully recover. The trouble is that most of this advice gets passed along over the back fence or in a comment section, and it sounds sensible, so nobody ever tests it. I did test it. Side by side, same soil, same sun, written down in the log. Some of what I found matched the old advice. A lot of it didn't. The garden doesn't lie, it rewards the system, not the guesswork. So keep that white milk jug in the back of your mind as we go, because when we get to it at the end, the sunlight part is going to explain why half the gardeners you meet swear by it and the other half call it nonsense. Now, everything I'm about to show you comes out of the same testing that built a book called Steve's 30-Day Maximum Yield Protocol. It's the exact 30-day system I follow in my own backyard to roughly double what every plant produces, written out day by day for home gardeners who want significantly more food from the space they already have. No extra square footage, no expensive equipment, and it works the same in raised beds, in-ground rows, and containers. It runs 115 pages, and it includes the Big 7 Yield Killers, which is the diagnostic checklist I use to find what's holding a garden back. And a few of the substances we're covering today are on that list. It also covers feeding for fruit instead of foliage, the strategic pruning that feels wrong but multiplies production, and the companion and succession planting systems with the science behind why each one works. It's $17 right now, marked down from $47, and one good tomato season pays that back with change. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you're watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, let's start the list because number 1 is probably sitting under your kitchen sink right now. Number 1. Vinegar. Somewhere along the line, vinegar got a reputation as the natural answer to everything in the yard. Pour it on the weeds, pour it around the tomatoes to make the soil acidic. Splash some in the watering can to perk things up. I hear a version of this every single season. And on the surface, it looks like it works, because if you spray vinegar on a dandelion on a hot afternoon, the leaves shrivel up by supper. Here is what's really happening. Household vinegar is about 5% acetic acid. That acid burns the green tissue it touches, and only the tissue it touches. The dandelion root sits 4 to 6 inches down, completely untouched, and in about 2 weeks, that weed is back, usually with a friend. Meanwhile, everything the vinegar soaked into paid the real price. The top inch of soil is where the densest population of bacteria and fungi lives, and 5% acid runs through that top inch like a grass fire. I tested this on the gravel path beside my east bed. One stretch got sprayed with vinegar every time weeds showed up. The stretch next to it got its weeds pulled by hand with a $2 weeding fork. The vinegar stretch needed spraying again every 2 to 3 weeks all summer long. And the row of bush beans planted along that edge of the bed came in noticeably behind the beans further down the same row. Same seed, same water, same sun. The soil near the vinegar strip had simply lost its workforce. The acid soil idea deserves a minute too, because it sounds scientific. Yes, blueberries and a few other crops prefer acidic soil. But vinegar is a weak acid that soil buffers out within days. You cannot change soil pH with a bottle of vinegar any more than you can heat your house by lighting a match. If a soil test shows your pH really is too high, the fix is elemental sulfur, worked into the soil in full at the rate on the package. A pH test kit runs about $5 at the hardware store. $5 one time instead of guessing for years. And for the weeds, here is what actually works. For weeds, in a path or between pavers, pour plain boiling water straight from the kettle onto the crown of the weed. Boiling water cooks the root of a young weed, not just the leaves. For weeds inside a bed, pull them by hand after a rain when the soil is soft. Take your time with it. 10 minutes of pulling after a rain beats an hour of fighting dry ground. So the vinegar stays in the kitchen, that handles the weeds. But this next one usually gets poured with the best intentions in the world because our mothers did it first. Number 2, dishwater. There's a good chance you watched a mother or a grandmother carry the dishpan out the back door and toss it on the roses, and the roses looked fine. Here's the catch. What she was tossing was actual soap made from lye and fat, and it broke down in the soil within days. What comes out of the bottle by your sink today is detergent. It's a different chemical animal built with surfactants, degreasers, fragrances, and a load of sodium, and some bottles add antibacterial agents on top of that. Think about what a degreaser is designed to do. Its whole job is dissolving films of fat and oil. Now look at your plants. The shine on a healthy tomato leaf is a wax film that keeps water in and disease out. The membranes wrapping every root hair are made of fatty compounds. Pour detergent water into a bed week after week, and you are running a degreaser across the exact protective layers your plants depend on, while the sodium quietly stacks up in the soil behind it. I ran this one in containers so nothing else could interfere. 2 pepper plants, same potting mix, same sunny spot on the patio. One got plain water, the other got cooled dishwater twice a week. By week 6, the dishwater pepper had browned leaf edges. It stood a good 4 inches shorter, and by the end of the season, it gave me about half the peppers of its twin. Now, some of you have heard of insecticidal soap, and that's a real tool. So let me draw the line clearly. Insecticidal soap is a purpose-made product. You spray it directly on soft-bodied pests like aphids, on the bug itself, on a cloudy morning, and that's the whole job. It is never poured into the soil by the gallon. If you want a homemade version, use pure Castile soap, 1 teaspoon in a quart of water, sprayed on the pest and nothing else. And if you like reusing household water in a dry summer, that's a fine instinct. Just make it plain water. The water you rinsed vegetables in, or plain rinse water with nothing added, is perfectly safe for the garden. The suds go down the drain. Now, number 3 is the one that's going to ruffle some feathers because it might be the single most repeated piece of tomato advice in America. Number 3, Epsom salt. Sprinkle Epsom salt in the planting hole, dissolve it in the watering can once a month. It gives you more blooms, sweeter fruit, and it stops blossom end rot. You've heard all of it, and I believed all of it for years. Then I put it in the test beds, and I have not touched the stuff since. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate and nothing else. Magnesium and sulfur. Now, blossom end rot, that sunken black patch on the bottom of a tomato, is a calcium failure inside the fruit. And here's the piece of plant science that changes everything. Calcium and magnesium enter the roots through the same doorways. They compete for the same seats on the same bus. When you flood the soil with magnesium, you crowd calcium out at the door. So the most popular home remedy for a calcium problem is a monthly delivery of calcium's direct competitor. I ran 2 identical tomato beds to check it. 4 plants each, same varieties, same compost, same drip line. One bed got the standard advice, 2 tablespoons of Epsom salt per gallon once a month. The other bed got nothing extra at all. The Epsom bed looked wonderful, I'll give it that. Magnesium is the heart of the green pigment in a leaf, so those plants greened up dark and lush, and that's exactly why people stay convinced it's working. But the fruit told a different story. More rotted bottoms in the Epsom bed, and by the end of the season, Karen's log had the plain bed ahead by roughly a third in total pounds. The dark leaves were a costume. The harvest was the truth. So what actually stops blossom end rot? In most of the country, the calcium is already sitting in your soil. The rot happens because calcium only travels into the plant dissolved in water. So every time the bed swings from bone dry to soaked, the calcium delivery stalls right when the young fruit needs it. The fix costs almost nothing. Water deeply on a steady schedule, about 1 inch per week, including rain. That's 1 inch every week, not 3 inches whenever you remember. Then lay 2 inches of mulch, straw, or shredded leaves to keep the moisture even between waterings. 2 inches. And if you genuinely suspect your soil is short on magnesium, don't guess. A soil test runs about $12 through most county extension offices, and in all my years of testing, mine has never once come back low. Keep that calcium idea in your pocket, by the way, because it walks back on stage at the end of this video with that white jug I promised you. But first, number 4, and this is the one in the brown jar. Number 4, used cooking oil. Bacon grease from the skillet, the quart of oil left after frying fish. Somebody decided that since it came from food, it must be food for the soil. And out the back door it goes, poured along the garden edge. Sometimes it's just to keep it out of the kitchen pipes. Either way, the garden pays for it longer than almost anything else on this list. Healthy soil is nearly half empty space, little air pockets between the crumbs, and roots need that air the same way you do. Roots breathe. When oil hits the ground, it coats those soil crumbs and waterproofs them. The way oil seals a cast iron pan. Water hits the surface and beads up instead of soaking in. Below the surface, the film smothers the air pockets. The earthworms are the first to go, and they take your best free labour with them. Then the oil turns rancid, and rancid fat is a dinner bell for ants, roaches, and raccoons. I proved this one on purpose in a sacrifice corner of the yard where nothing was planted. 1 quart of cooled fryer oil on a patch about 2 feet square. A full year later, water still beat up on that spot like rain on a waxed car hood. And for 2 seasons, the only things willing to grow there were the toughest weeds in the county. 1 quart, 2 seasons. So where does it go instead? Small amounts are simple. Wipe the greasy pan with a paper towel and put the towel in the trash. Larger amounts get poured back into the original bottle, capped and set out with the garbage, and some towns collect used cooking oil at the recycling centre. Your compost pile can forgive a smear of grease on a paper towel, but never a pour. And if you want your kitchen feeding your garden, the good stuff is sitting right next to the oil. Vegetable scraps and coffee grounds go into the compost pile. Eggshells get rinsed, crushed, and scattered in. That's the kitchen to garden pipeline that actually works. Now, number 5 is the sneakiest one on the whole list because it comes out of your own spigot and you'd never taste a thing. Number 5, softened water. If your house has a water softener, I want you to stop and think about which faucets it feeds because this one hides in the walls. A water softener works by a trade. It pulls the calcium and magnesium out of hard water and it swaps in sodium. That trade is wonderful for your water heater and your shower doors. For a vegetable bed, it means every single watering delivers a small dose of salt, and small doses add up all season, every season. Sodium wrecks soil from 2 directions at once. First, it breaks down soil structure. Those nice crumbs that hold air and water fall apart into a fine paste, and the surface dries into a crust that seals the bed like a lid. Second, salty soil water actually pulls moisture backward out of the roots, so you get the strangest sight in gardening: plants wilting in soil that's plainly wet. The warning signs are consistent: a faint white crust on the soil surface, leaf edges browning as if scorched, a bed that stays soggy on top while the plants underneath act thirsty. Here's what to do this week. Find out whether your outdoor spigots run through the softener. In many houses, the builder plumbed the outside faucets ahead of the softener, but plenty of houses, especially ones with later remodels, run everything through it. Follow the pipes from the softener tank if you can see them, or call whoever installed the unit and ask. It's a 2-minute phone call. If your hose water turns out to be softened, there are 3 fixes, from best to cheapest. Have a plumber add one bypass spigot for the garden, or set up a rain barrel under a downspout, which is the best water a garden can get anyway. And it's free every time it rains. And if a bed already shows salt damage, spread gypsum, which is calcium sulfate, at the rate on the bag, then water deeply to flush the sodium down below the roots. Gypsum. It's a few dollars at any garden centre, and it pushes the sodium off the soil particles so the rain can carry it away. And that's the 5. Vinegar, dishwater, Epsom salt, cooking oil, and softened water. All of them out of the beds for good. Which brings me to the promise I made you at the start, because there is one liquid from my kitchen that goes into the garden every summer, and it's time to pay that off. It's milk. Plain milk from the refrigerator, watered down, and its main job is beating powdery mildew, that grey-white dust that shows up on squash, zucchini, cucumber, and pumpkin leaves every humid midsummer, and slowly chokes the plant. I tested it the same way I test everything. 2 rows of zucchini, same bed, same drip line. 1 row got a milk spray every 10 days starting in early July. The other row got nothing. By the middle of August, the untreated row looked like it had been dusted with flour and was shutting down. The sprayed rows stayed mostly clean and kept handing me zucchini for 3 more weeks. Same seed packet, same soil, 3 extra weeks of harvest. Now here's the part nobody explains, and it's the whole reason this works for some folks and fails for others. Milk is full of proteins. When those proteins are sitting on a leaf and direct sunlight hits them, the light sets off a reaction. And those proteins throw off a burst of oxygen compounds right there on the leaf surface. That burst acts like a mild antiseptic, and it scorches the mildew spores where they sit. The sun and the milk make the medicine together right on the leaf. Spray it on a cloudy evening instead, and there's no reaction at all. The milk just sits there, sours, and feeds the very mold you are fighting. That's the entire split between the gardeners who swear by milk and the gardeners who call it junk. Both of them are telling the truth. They just sprayed at different times of day, so here is exactly how I do it. Mix 1 part plain milk with 4 parts water. Skim milk works just as well as whole, so use the cheap stuff. Pour the mix into a clean spray bottle, spray the tops of the leaves until they're wet, then spray the undersides too. Do this in the morning of a bright sunny day so the leaves get hours of direct sun while the milk is on them. Repeat every 10 days through the humid stretch of summer. That's every 10 days, morning, full sun. One more honest note, because I don't deal in miracles. Milk prevents mildew far better than it cures it. If a leaf has already gone fully grey, cut that leaf off and put it in the trash, never the compost, and let the spray protect the rest. And that's exactly the kind of thing the whole protocol is built on. Tested, cheap, and written out day by day so you can just follow along. Steve's 30-day maximum yield protocol is $17, down from $47, and it walks you from soil preparation clear through harvest, 1 day at a time, with the same test bed proof behind every step. If your garden gave you less than you hoped for last year, the difference is a system. And $17 is less than 1 flat of tomato seedlings. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you're watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time, there is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So keep the vinegar, the dishwater, the Epsom salt, the fryer oil, and the softened water out of your beds, and let the milk and the morning sun handle the mildew. Tell me your zone and your biggest garden frustration right now. I read every single one. And next time, I'm going to show you what happened when I watered one bed at dawn and its twin bed at dinner time for an entire summer, because the gap in Karen's harvest log was not small. And the reason for it comes down to what roots are doing in the dark. Get out there and get your hands dirty, and I'll see you in the garden.